Mike Rollo. Sorry, Phil, of course. Successful tournament as far as you're concerned?
Indeed, Steve. Been a terrific tournament. 94 entries with competition from the Pepsi Cola and the Australian Open last week. It's just fantastic. And the strength of the field hasn't diminished at all. I think we've got a top-class field competing for top-class prize money.
Well, that's a fact too. And entry fees, of course, down to an absolute minimum, trying to get sponsorship to subsidise. Ron Powell going for that big spare. A very difficult split, of course, the 6, 7, 10. And just failing to kick the 6-pin across the back of the 7. I'm sure, Phil, while you're here and these bowlers work their way through, and that makes it interesting, 38 pins and he's caught up 10 in the first. I'm sure you'd like to make mention of some of the many sponsors that have put their hard-earned business dollars into this tournament.
Yes, Steve, I'd especially like to thank Medibank Private, mate. They've done a terrific job. They come into the tournament a little bit late. I think they're just buying their way into 10-pin bowling a little bit. I mean, after coming in for the Victorian State Masters here a few weeks ago, and it's really good to have them along. And I think they've had a ball and hope to continue a successful relationship with them in the future, mate.
Sure, and I'm certain with the sort of scoring as I mentioned earlier, and a very interesting situation. Assuming that Kennedy spares, he's pulled back approximately 20 of those 38 pins. And very interesting indeed. Where was I? I was yeah.
The same, mate, that the crowd's starting to turn behind Mike Kennedy. They can sense a comeback here, and it's not often that people stage a comeback against Ron Powell.
That's absolutely correct.
Harking back to the Melbourne Cup a couple of years ago.
Come on, Ronnie!
Spotting American professional Steve Neff pins going the last game and pulled out a miraculous 6-bagger. All beautiful strikes to completely snatch the game away from him.
Yes, I remember that well. That was one of the all-time great finals. And it could be a little high. Still not looking quite the goods over that second board, but certainly at this stage anyway, he's pulled back some 20-odd pins of his 38 pins that he was behind going to this final match.
Come on!
Could have quite easily been a chop, but fortunately for Mike, the ball just moving enough to take the 3-6. And as Phil Brook leaves us, we welcome back Mike. Mike, Phil was just thanking the sponsors. We got to Medibank, and I'm certain there are a few other people who, as I did mention earlier, put their hard-earned business dollars into this tournament.
Certainly do, Steve. We, as has already been mentioned, Medibank have just a virtual newcomer into the 10-pin bowling scene, but we've had sponsors in the BCBA now for quite a long time. Hardy's Wines have been a very big sponsor of ours over the last 3 or 4 years, and we look forward to receiving their gift packs of wine each month. Video Instruments, which are basically dealing in marine instruments, give us a very nice clock each year, each monthly tournament. Eric Thompson's Ball Shop down at Mentone Bowl is a regular sponsor with us, and of course Geelong Lanes is, been absolutely fabulous to us for this tournament, as they are each year, and we look forward to further dealings with Geelong Lanes, not only for the Venuto Cup, but also for some of our own private tournaments as well.
Sure, that's right, Mike. And that's not healthy at all. It's a fairly expensive chop for Mike Kennedy, leaving the 10-pin there out of that 3-6-10 combination. And depending on what Ron Powell does with this 10-pin, will depend upon the situation at the 4th frame of this last match.
That famous 10-pin again, Steve.
That's correct. Yeah, that looks a bit better.
Yes, Ronnie.
Looks very good.
Mike Kennedy is 62 in the 4th frame at this stage. Ron Powell 37 in the 3rd, with a spare working, of course.
I'm still looking at Mike trying to pick up somewhere near 24, 25 pins. which at this stage is, he doesn't look real good.
And again crossing and leaving the same spare, or the same attempt at a spare that he had on lane 15, the 3-6-10.
This is the trouble when shooting an outside line such as Mike does, that when the ball does start to take off, he's going to find himself leaving those right-hand pins virtually 9 out of 10.
Come on. Righto!
And Powell looking good now. The fluctuating fortunes, I guess, of course, struggling in the first couple of frames of this match and letting Mike right back in. And he does convert that spare, he doesn't chop.
Ron obviously found the fact that he's some 40-odd pins in front, and he's obviously looking very good in the first couple of frames. He a bit of a lapse in concentration, but I'm sure you'll find now he'll be back to business, and he'll start and hit the pocket again.
Not quite getting the carry of the 5 onto the 7 pin, but certainly a simple spare for Ron Powell. Kennedy, as we said, the job ahead of him, really needs to put 3 or 4 right in now.
Unless he starts to strike, Steve, he's what we commonly call he is out to lunch. Even one there which the crowd gets a little bit excited about, but he's got to really start and put a bit of a string of strikes together.
Simple conversion, as we said, of the 7 pin for Powell. 77 in the 5th with a spare is Ron Powell's score situation at this point, at the halfway mark of this final game. Mike Kennedy 82 in the 5th with a strike working in the 6th, and must double. And certainly looking a lot better. And got the break on the crowd, of course, the hometown boy, as we said earlier, getting the applause of the crowd. He needs a few more of those, Mike. However, he's looking good.
I think he needs at least another 2, Steve. Ron's doing it pretty easy. I think you'll find Ron will just hang on in there. And unless Mike comes out with probably 4 or 5 in a row, then it's just shut the gate.
It would seem to me that you've backed Ron Powell.
I had a small wager on Ron, yeah. Stick with the favourites, that's what I always say.
Stick with the favourites. 95 in the 6th, Powell. And of course, Kennedy with that double in frames 6 and 7 is in a situation where, as Mike just said, if he puts 2 more in a row together, a 4-bagger up, situation could be very interesting. And converts the 6-10 fairly easily.
It's a little bit reminiscent of Canberra last year, Steve, when
this year,
when Ron lost to Gary Key. Ron was 25 pins in front going into the last game, and yet still was beaten.
Very important strike. Your bookmaker, Michael, might be rubbing his hands a little bit, I think, at this stage.
I've had 2 bad losses today already, Steve, both my own form, and I also backed John Sullivan to get into the grand final, so I've missed out on him too, and that looks like Mr. Kennedy's going to do it again to me.
It's certainly looking very interesting at this stage. Powell looks fairly secure in that shot, and he is 115 in the 7th.
Excuse me if I jump up and down and cheer for that. That's just about saved me, I think.
An unbiased commentator's comment.
You're right.
115 in the 7th with a strike working is Ron Powell's score at this stage. 112 in the 6th frame with a double to follow is Mike Kennedy's situation. And that's wide. He sprayed that. And not quite getting the luck that he really needed there, leaving a 1-2, an easy conversion for him. We find that with this spare he would be 160 in the 8th frame, and assuming 13 pins
in the 7th frame, and he's got to make this spare and hope that Ron doesn't strike again. And now we've got ourselves a ball game, and this is the This is the interesting parts about 10-pin bowling that you just never know. You just never know when someone's going to miss a frame. And here we have Powell looking as though he had an unassailable lead going in that last game. And all of a sudden, he's blown 3-4 frames and Kennedy's back in business.
And we almost well, as the pros in the States call it, a 25-to-1 shot. We would assume that Ron will obviously go for one pin here to easily secure the one, as he has done.
On the ninth frame, Steve, we've got ourselves showing a 1-pin difference. A 1-pin difference going into the 9th frame, and this is a real pressure shot for Mike Kennedy now.
Assuming, of course, that he strikes.
That's right.
Ron Powell studying as Mike's on the approach for this very important 10th shot. Ron Powell studying the score. It's down. It's in. And a very unlucky wrap on the 10-pin. 2 pins is the difference at this stage. 2 pins the difference as we go into this. An incredible final. As you said, Mike, Ron Powell seemed to have it all over. It was all over and signed, sealed and delivered and $700 odd in the pocket. But
we were counting the money, Steve. I had it spent.
And Powell has put it down. And that's high. And a 7-4, an easy spare. And it's
fair, but it looks like it's going to battle down to a last ball final.
Mike Kennedy has missed the 10-pin. 188. Final score 188. Give him an must get one pin of these to win and 5.
1 or 2 to win, and I think you'll find that Ron's going to hit this right in the eye, and he will not miss these 2 pins.
As he hasn't done, Mike. And what an expensive 10-pin. And Mike Rollo has had to leave us now, of course, to do the presentations. What an expensive 10-pin that was. Mike Kennedy finishing with 583 after the 3 games of the grand final. And Ron Powell 143 in the 9th with a spare in the 10th, a possible 163. And he's ridden the ball, and it's 9 and a 162 game. 595 to 583. A 12-pin win to Ron Powell, and this is the final of the 1982 Venuto Cup. As congratulations all around, and the boys set up for the presentation. And we'll listen to the booth announcing. On behalf of the VCBA Geelong Lanes, we would like to thank Medibank Private and all the other sponsors that have made this a great tournament. This is Steve Jones, and I thank you very much for your time.